James Coburn didn't go to Yul Brynner's funeral. James Coburn was born James Harrison Coburn III in Laurel, Nebraska, on August 31, 1928. Coburn's early existence was very different from the glamorous one he would subsequently lead. Coburn's father had a garage and had a drinking problem, which affected Coburn's boyhood and taught him how to be strong and independent. The family traveled around a lot before landing in Compton, California. There, young James found a love for telling stories, acting, and movies that helped him escape from the instability of his life. Coburn's journey to becoming an actor was anything but easy. He went to Los Angeles City College to study drama after serving in the U.S. Army, where he learned how to drive trucks and operate radios. He eventually improved his skills with the help of famous acting instructor Stella Adler, whose focus on honesty, discipline, and inner life had a lasting effect on his performances. Coburn never liked going overboard in the theater. Instead, he learned to achieve more with less and to allow quiet, time, and silence speak louder than words. That kind of self-control would become his signature. Coburn paid his dues the hard way all through the 1950s. He was in a lot of westerns and crime dramas on TV, although he was sometimes unrecognized or buried deep in the cast list. He learned a lot from shows like Gunsmoke, Perry Mason, and The Twilight Zone, but he didn't get any credit for it. But casting directors saw something strange about him. He had a thin physique, a rough face, a voice that sounded both funny and scary, and an evident air of self-control. He didn't look like a typical leading guy, and that was what made him so strong. The Magnificent Seven, which came out in 1960, was Coburn's big break. Even though he wasn't the main character, his depiction of the knife-wielding Brit, cool, deadly, and quietly philosophical, stole scenes from performers who were much more famous. Coburn changed the way people saw outlaws on cinema with one role. He didn't strut. He watched. He didn't brag. He stayed still. People quickly realized that this was a man you shouldn't take lightly. Hollywood had found a new breed of manly role model. More sardonic, sharper, and leaner than everything that came before it. The 1960s were Coburn's best years. He was in movies that showed how America was evolving. The Great Escape, Charade, The Americanization of Emily, Our Man Flint, and In Like Flint are some of them. Coburn brought intelligence and subtle humor to every part, whether it was a PW, a reluctant lover, or a parody of James Bond. He was especially good at playing anti-heroes, or those who broke the rules of traditional morality but stuck to their own rigorous ones. Coburn felt that he was right in the middle of the cultural moment at a time when old Hollywood's certainties was falling apart. Coburn, on the other hand, didn't want to be a fake star, even as his fame expanded. He said no to parts that didn't interest him, fought with studios, and wouldn't let them shape him. There was a price to pay for this freedom. Coburn worked less often in the 1970s, when Hollywood changed again. On top of his career problems, he was also going through a terrible personal problem. Rheumatoid arthritis that is quite bad. At its worst, the condition made him hurt all the time and made it hard for him to walk or work. He almost completely disappeared from the screen for years, which made many people think his career was over. What happened next was one of the most impressive and understated comebacks in movie history. Coburn slowly regained his ability to move after trying out several unusual treatments. He started acting again in the 1990s. Age had made him more present, not less. His voice was coarser, and his face had more lines, but he was in charge. He played supporting roles in movies like Affliction, Sister Act 2, The Nutty Professor, and Payback that other performers might have seen as throwaway parts. He gave weight, danger, and dark insight to these performances. Coburn earned the Academy Award for Nicest Supporting Actor for Affliction in 1999, which was the nicest thing that could have happened to him. His role as a violent, emotionally abusive father was horrifying in how little it showed. There were no big speeches or dramatic outbursts. Instead, there was just a lifetime of brutality shown through body language, quiet, and the cold, hard truth. The performance was so good that it could only have come from decades of real-life experience. The Oscar felt less like a career boost and more like a long-overdue recognition. James Coburn had a private life full of strong connections, long friendships, and a quiet sense of purpose that went far beyond the camera lens. He was one of Hollywood's most captivating film presences, with a steely look and recognizable voice. Coburn was married twice, and each marriage marked a different time in his life. One was shaped by young ambition in building a family, while the other was shaped by maturity, commitment, and giving to others. In 1959, when Coburn was still on the hard road to popularity, he married Beverly Kelly for the first time. As his career took off in the 1960s and 1970s, the pair developed a life together that lasted 20 years. This is a big deal in an industry where partnerships tend to end quickly. They had 2 kids together, and for many years Coburn had to combine the demands of an acting profession that was becoming more and more famous with the obligations of being a parent and a family man. Coburn and Kelly divorced in 1979 after being married for 20 years. This ended a major and important part of his life story. Coburn fell in love with actress Paula years later. Their wedding on October 22, 1993, was a romantic and meaningful event held in the historic setting of Versailles, France. This is a good place for a partnership based on respect, shared values, and creative kinship. Coburn and Murad's marriage was stable and full of profound friendship, unlike the drama that typically comes with famous partnerships. They stayed together until Coburn died in 2002. They are partners in life and in their promise to give back. Coburn and Murad worked together to start the James and Paula Coburn Foundation, which they used their money and power to help issues that were important to them. The foundation became a permanent reminder of who Coburn was when he wasn't in the public eye. A man who played tough guys on screen but believed passionately in being kind, responsible, and leaving a good legacy. Coburn's personal life tells a story as interesting as his movie roles. It's a story of love that was found, lost, regained, and finally turned into something lasting. Hollywood was shocked and confused when James Coburn didn't show up to Yul Brynner's burial. Fans thought that all of the major stars of the time were friends, if not just respectful of each other. Both guys were famous for being tough, cool, and tall in movies, and they were also veterans of a time when Hollywood stars seemed larger than life. Coburn's choice not to go, on the other hand, was not a mistake, nor was it because of schedule issues or personal anguish. It sprang from something far more complicated, a deep-seated anger that had been building for decades. "I didn't go because I didn't feel like I belonged there." Coburn remarked once, "People want you to show up and act like history didn't happen, but I don't live that way." Coburn's sentiments about Brynner were based on their work together, especially on the set of The Magnificent Seven in 1960. The movie became a masterpiece, but making it was full of stress, ego battles, and fights for dominance. Brynner, who was already a big celebrity from The King and I, had a lot of power on site. At the time, Coburn was a rising star and thought that Brynner used his authority to make others feel less important. Coburn said, "He was in charge of everything. It wasn't enough to be good. He had to be the biggest person in the room." Coburn thought that Brynner was purposely hurting other actors, especially younger ones who might one day try to take his place as the best actor on screen. He talked of a setting where competition turned into cruelty. He said that small things like blocking choices, camera location, and even how people behaved during rehearsals were used to keep people in line. There was a kind of math to it. Coburn said he knew just how to keep the attention where he wanted it. Coburn was hurt more by what he thought was a lack of basic respect than by professional competition. Coburn said Brynner didn't have the attributes of generosity and mutual support that are important in an industry that relies on working together. "I don't hate a lot of people," Coburn said honestly. "I hated the way he treated people, and yes, I hated him for that." Coburn didn't use the word hatred lightly. He was known later in life for being calm and philosophical, but he was still adamant on this subject. He thought that going to Brynner's burial would have been dishonest and pointless, and it would have erased years of unresolved anger. Coburn stated, "A funeral doesn't erase the past. It doesn't make a bad person into a good person." Coburn also disagreed with the Hollywood idea that death should always be respected. He thought that respect had to be earned in life, not given after death. He said, "I believe in telling the truth. And the truth is that I was able to make peace by remaining away." Before Brynner died in 1985, the two men did not publicly make up. Coburn never said that Brynner didn't have any talent or charm. He actually admitted how smart he was. He was very attractive. Coburn claimed you couldn't stop looking at him. That was the issue. He was aware of it. Later in life, Coburn talked about forgiveness as something that happens to each person, not something that happens in front of a crowd. He didn't need a funeral to deal with his feelings, and he didn't feel like he had to take part in a group grief that didn't feel right to him. Coburn said, "I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't feel sad, and faking to would have made things worse." Coburn's absence was, in the end, a simple act of honesty. He chose to be real instead of fake in a profession known for polished exteriors and polite lies. The choice he made was in line with who he was. Independent, not sentimental, and very dedicated to life by his own rules. Coburn remarked that certain people would always remember you for how great you are. People remember you for how you made them feel. That's the bit you can't get away from. James Coburn's decision not to go to Yul Brynner's funeral was not a public statement. He was ending a private chapter. And in doing so, he reminded the public that even legends have flaws and that the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is still important. James Coburn had severe rheumatoid arthritis for most of his adult life, which caused him a lot of pain and made his joints stiffer over time. He didn't let his illness define him. Instead, he worked on discipline, strength, and inner peace through martial arts. He became a dedicated student and close friend of the famous Bruce Lee. Their friendship was more than just Hollywood friendship. It was based on respect for each other, a similar philosophy, and the idea that you can manage both your body and mind. Coburn often said that training in martial arts helped him deal with his agony and take back control of his life when many others would have given up hope. Coburn was really sad when Bruce Lee died abruptly and very young in 1973. He was one of the people who carried Lee's body to the grave on July 25 of that year. A sad and very touching memorial that showed how close their friendship was and how devoted Coburn was throughout his life. On November 18, 2002, Coburn's life came to a quiet and sad end when he had a heart attack at his home in Beverly Hills. He was 74 years old. His wife Paula later told him that he died in her arms when they were sitting together and listening to music. A picture that is almost unbearably lyrical, showing how close and caring they were with each other. The guy who had been on so many screens and stages unexpectedly died in the one place he felt safest, next to the woman he loved. What started as a normal, calm moment turned into a tragedy. In a last-ditch effort to save Coburn, paramedics transported him to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. But it was there that he was declared dead, ending a great life full of brilliance, charm, and a strong presence. Hollywood and fans who had followed his long career were shocked to hear of his death. They mourned not only for the actor he had been, but also for the warmth and humanity he seemed to have off-screen. But the tragedy didn't end with Coburn's death. Less than 2 years later, fate handed another harsh blow. Paula Coburn died of cancer on July 30, 2004, when she was only 48 years old. She was still pretty young when her life was cut short by terrible loss. Her narrative is full of love, commitment, and deep sadness. Their last chapters together were like a bittersweet ending. Two lives who were tightly connected, yet ended too soon. They will always be remembered for their love that lasted even after terrible loss.